I received an anonymous box, and I wished I'd never opened it. One day I returned home from work, just like any other day. I turned my car off and I stepped out, and I saw a little small box sitting on my porch. There was no shipping label, no return address, just a small rectangular box wrapped in brown paper and tied with twine that looked old enough to crumble if I pulled too hard. I stood there for a while, key still in hand, staring at it. I don't order things online much, and when I do, I know exactly when they're coming. But this didn't trigger any immediate alarm. I mean, people send gifts sometimes. Wrong addresses happen, so I took it inside. The box itself was heavier than it looked, and when I shook it gently, nothing rattled. There was no sound at all. The twine came apart easily, almost like it wanted to be opened. And inside it was another box, but this one was wooden. It was dark, almost like black wood, polished smooth but worn out at the edges. It fit perfectly in my hands. There were no hinges. There wasn't a latch. Just a lid that slid off with a soft, dry scrape. And inside there was nothing. At least, nothing that I could see. I laughed at myself, and I put the lid back on, and I set it on my coffee table. I figured it was some kind of prank, or maybe art. Or maybe someone was just trying to be mysterious. A prank, maybe. I forgot about it by the end of the night. That was the last normal night that I've had in months. The first dream came quietly. I was standing in my bedroom, exactly how it looks in real life. The same dresser, the same faint street light coming through the blinds. Everything felt real enough that I didn't realize that I was even dreaming. But then I noticed the corner. The space where the wall meets the ceiling just above my closet door. It was darker than it should have been. There was no shadow, and it was not unlit, just dark. Like something had soaked the light out of that space. I stared at it, feeling a slow crawling unease. And just before I woke up, I saw the shadow move. Not emerge and not crawl, just shift slightly, like something adjusted its posture. I woke up sweating, heart pounding, staring at the exact corner, but it looked normal and empty. I told myself it was just a dream. But the next night, it happened again. This time, the darkness stretched downward, thin and uneven, like fingers made of shadow reaching along the wall. And I tried to move, but I couldn't. I tried to scream, and I couldn't. I tried to jerk myself free, but I couldn't. Then I woke up. And that became the pattern of my nights. Same room, same corner. Every night the dreams returned, always in that same corner, always just something barely wrong. And by the fourth night, I started noticing shadows during the day. Not full shapes, just flickers at the edge of my vision. A suggestion of movement where nothing should be. I chalked it up to just pure exhaustion. But I wasn't tired yet. Not really. And by the end of the first week, the dreams had changed. The shadows no longer stayed in the corner. They peeled themselves free. In one dream, something unfolded itself from the ceiling, its limbs too long, bending in ways that didn't make sense. It didn't have a face, just a smooth, pale skin, and little small holes that could have been its eyes. It leaned close enough that I could feel its presence, heavy and wrong, pressing down on me. But it never touched me. It just watched. I started sleeping with the lights on, and then the TV playing quietly, and then not sleeping at all. Every time I closed my eyes, I felt like I was inviting something closer. And that's when the hallucinations began. At work, I'd catch reflections in dark computer screens, shapes behind me that vanished when I turned around. Once I saw a hand curl slowly around the edge of my cubicle wall. I jumped and I screamed. And there was nothing there. My coworkers just laughed it off. They asked me if I was okay or if I was pulling all-nighters again. I just laughed too. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. I stopped going out. I stopped answering messages. And that's when I remembered the box. The box had sat on my coffee table this entire time. I don't know why I didn't throw it away. Maybe some part of me knew. Maybe it didn't want to be thrown away, and it hid itself from my vision. Every time I had an encounter, the creatures would become clearer. In my dreams, they stopped hiding altogether. They moved freely through my apartment, scraping against walls and bending through doorways that were too small for them. Their pale skin stretched tight, and their limbs ended in long, jointless fingers that twitched constantly, like they were searching for something. And the worst part about it was the silence. They never made a sound, and they never spoke. They just watched me, always watching me. After nearly a week without real sleep, I saw one, fully awake and fully materialized, right in front of me as I was standing in my kitchen staring at the microwave clock as it blinked 3:17 a.m. And that's when I felt it. Breathing, heavy, deep breathing that wasn't mine. It was slow. It had a wet sound to it, right behind my ear. I didn't turn around. I couldn't. I was frozen. A pressure settled onto my shoulders, heavy and deliberate, like hands resting there without squeezing. I felt a fingertip trace slowly along the side of my neck. And suddenly pain, just sharp. And I screamed and spun around, and there was nothing there. My kitchen was empty. It was silent, but my neck was burning. I ran to the bathroom mirror and I pulled my collar down. 3 thin red lines ran across my skin, fresh and bleeding. My heart dropped into my stomach. That's when I felt something in my pocket. I hadn't even been wearing these pants earlier. My hands shook as I reached in. I could feel the grain of the wood smooth and heavy. And I pulled it out. It was the box. The same old wooden box that I'd left on my coffee table. Noticed one time maybe. Forgot again. And now sitting in my pocket like it had always belonged there. I don't remember screaming, but my throat was raw afterward. I ran. I didn't think, I just acted. I grabbed the box, not caring who saw me, and I threw it into the metal dumpster behind my apartment building and slammed the lid shut. Then I ran back inside. I grabbed a hammer and went back out. I don't know how long I stood there smashing it, splintering wood, cracking it, split open. The box didn't resist. When it finally broke apart completely, the air felt lighter. Like a pressure I hadn't noticed was suddenly gone. And that night, I finally slept. No dreams, no shadows, no dark corners watching me. It had been weeks now. Finally, the scratches healed into thin white scars. I don't see these things anymore and I sleep through the night. But sometimes, when I wake up too suddenly, I swear I feel something missing. Like something that was very patient had simply decided to wait. And every now and then when I check my pockets out of habit, I'm relieved that they're empty.